There are plants that chase the sun, that bloom loudly, that rise fast and demand attention. And then there is the jade plant. It doesn't ask for applause. It doesn't race for the tallest window. It simply holds. It endures. It waits. In the quiet corners of offices, on the steady shelves of living rooms, near the soft clinks of coin trays and the ticking of morning routines, you'll find it, not thriving through drama, not shrinking in neglect, but standing, alive, slow and utterly rooted. This isn't the plant for those chasing fast riches. It's the one that rewards those who show up daily, quietly, steadily, and with care. Because the jade plant doesn't just represent wealth, it reflects the way wealth actually grows. Small deposits, stored energy, in a foundation that doesn't collapse under pressure. And in a world obsessed with scale and speed, with hustle and flash, with viral growth and instant status, maybe what we need is less volume and more value. We live in a culture that celebrates big ambition, big milestones, big results. But underneath all of that, real prosperity still obeys a different law, one that doesn't shout but whispers, that doesn't erupt but accumulates. Think of how you've built your own foundations. Was it ever the big moments that truly anchored you? Or was it the consistency? The quiet days when you showed up anyway? The effort you made that no one saw? That's the energy of the jade plant. It doesn't just mirror stored abundance. It becomes a partner to your savings mindset, a symbol of durable chi, a constant reflection of the wealth that lasts. Its coin-shaped leaves aren't just metaphor, they're memory of how fortune is stored layer by layer, day by day, leaf by leaf. This video isn't going to talk to you about how to get rich quick. That's not our language here. At New Day Mindfulness, we speak the language of energy alignment, of home as foundation, of space as strategy. And today, we're going beyond pot placement and prosperity cliches. We're going to look at why this succulent, so often seen as a beginner's plant, is actually one of the most loyal energetic allies in all of Feng Shui. We'll talk about where it belongs, when it works best, what mistakes to avoid, and why even some of the world's most grounded leaders turn to this plant not for hype, but for harmony. Now, if you're watching this because you've been rebuilding, if you've been rebalancing your space after a season of noise, if your goals feel big, but your foundation still feels shaky, or if you're simply seeking a daily visual reminder of the kind of wealth you're willing to earn slowly and hold respectfully, then I want to personally welcome you to this episode. Because this plant, as humble as it looks, holds a frequency that supports exactly that kind of journey. And before we dig deeper into its structure, its strategy, and its symbolism, I'd love to ask you for one small energetic exchange. If this video speaks to something inside you or helps you see your space differently, please like it. Just that small gesture lets this video reach others who are also planting new roots. Share it with someone who might be starting over, who might be tending to a new chapter, someone who doesn't want more clutter. They want clarity. And if you haven't yet, I invite you to subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We're growing toward 2,000 subscribers, and every single voice here is part of a collective momentum. Not hype, not trend, just beautiful, grounded energy designed for modern homes and focused minds. So take a breath, look around your home, wherever you are. Look at what you've chosen to keep. What's on your desk? What's by your front door? What's been neglected on the windowsill? So ask yourself, is my space holding the version of me I'm trying to become? Or is it just reflecting who I've been when I was still rushing, still reaching, still restless? Because the jade plant won't chase you. It won't bloom for the algorithm. It won't signal you with drama. But if you let it, it will teach you. It will reflect back what kind of wealth you're really cultivating. It will show you whether you're building an empire of noise or a foundation of rhythm. Let's begin not with a secret technique or superstitious claim, but with a truth that's been with us since before we had language for chi or money. A truth your grandmother knew when she told you to tuck coins in a red envelope. A truth your ancestor carried when they placed that plant near the hearth and whispered something they didn't write down, but hoped you'd one day feel. Let's begin with the most ancient form of growth, slow, stable, rooted in patience, invisible to those who pay attention. Let's begin with the jade plant and what it's still trying to show you. Energetic signature in Feng Shui meaning. In the world of Feng Shui, few plants carry the layered significance of the jade plant. While it is traditionally aligned with the wood element because of its structure and upright growth pattern, its deeper symbolism reaches further. The plant's round, thick, coin-shaped leaves reflect the influence of the metal element, associated with value, legacy, and savings, while its weighty, succulent trunk suggests the grounded support of earth energy. In this way, the jade plant serves as a rare harmonizer among the 5 elements. It doesn't just represent growth, it represents the kind of growth that is contained, protected, and deliberate. It bridges the hunger to expand with the wisdom to hold. And that alone makes it a powerful ally for those looking to build long-term prosperity, not just sudden wins. Its structure tells a quiet story. The leaves are not sharp, scattered, or sprawling. They grow compactly, slowly, and symmetrically, mirroring stored qi, accumulated intention, and balanced development. Their shape evokes ancient Chinese coins for a reason. This is a plant designed by nature to look like currency, but rooted in patience. In Feng Shui, symbolism isn't metaphor, it's frequency. And everything about the jade plant emits the energy of containment, of self-earned wealth, of a fortune that doesn't have to shout to be respected. Unlike delicate tropical plants that wilt at the slightest disruption, the jade plant absorbs environmental inconsistencies without complaint. It survives when the environment isn't perfect. It teaches that true wealth doesn't require the perfect economy, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect timing. It requires consistency, care, and stillness. And stillness is a key theme in the energetic identity of the jade plant. It rarely blooms, and when it does, it happens under specific conditions: mature roots, long-standing stability, the right blend of light and stillness over time. In Feng Shui, this is not considered a weakness. It is a message that not all results are meant to appear immediately, that some gifts arrive only after years of quiet tending. The jade plant does not chase the sun like other houseplants. It holds space, it builds silently. It reflects the part of you that understands you're not starting over, you're starting deeper. It tells a different story than the typical wealth objects, the ones that promise fast results if you just wish hard enough. This plant makes no promises, it makes mirrors. If your attention is erratic, your watering inconsistent, or your intentions unclear, it will survive, but it won't thrive. If you treat it like a fortune magnet, but don't back that belief with consistent behavior, it may live, but it won't grow. But when you match its rhythm, when you bring patience and presence into the exchange, it reflects that discipline right back, not in a single dramatic bloom, but in thicker leaves, in fuller growth, in a daily living sense of energetic trust. This is why the jade plant is so often placed in the wealth corner of the home, not simply because it looks like a lucky token, but because it holds the signature of lasting fortune. In Feng Shui, the southeast corner of a home or room governs abundance, flow, and earned blessings. When the jade plant anchors this space, it acts as a memory field, reminding the inhabitants not just to receive wealth, but to retain it. to nurture it, to grow it slowly and wisely so that it doesn't come and go with market shifts, emotional swings, or unstable external conditions. And while its aesthetic might be simple, its impact is anything but. This is a plant of principle, of stored effort, of inner alignment. It also mirrors financial habits that build legacy. Think of a well-managed investment account. It doesn't spike every week, it doesn't always entertain, but it grows incrementally, reliably, backed by choices that most people never see. That is the rhythm the Jade Plant supports. In households where financial planning has been reactive, this plant calms the cycle. In rooms where ambition feels urgent but scattered, it stabilizes the field. It doesn't generate excitement, it generates confidence, quietly, steadily, without needing to be constantly repositioned or repotted or celebrated. And because it adapts to many lighting conditions, it fits into a wide range of homes and lifestyles. But remember, it thrives most when it senses care, not just convenience. Energetically, the Jade Plant also plays a symbolic role in emotional wealth. Its presence in a space communicates to the subconscious that value is not something you chase, but something you hold. That you do not need to constantly look for better opportunities when you've built a solid one. It is a plant that teaches loyalty, not just to a job or a home or a relationship, but to your own discipline, your own energy, your own vision. And in this way, the Jade Plant does not merely beautify a corner or balance a Bagua map. It participates in your psychology. It holds you in the slow, deliberate energy of legacy building. In Feng Shui consultation, I've often placed jade plants in the homes of entrepreneurs who burned out chasing every trend, only to realize they were tired, not poor. In the homes of retirees rebalancing their energy field to reflect a quieter prosperity. And in the bedrooms of those learning that true intimacy begins with self-trust. In all these cases, the jade plant doesn't change the room. It changes the rhythm, and when the rhythm changes, life follows. Ideal placement for maximum wealth energy. In Feng Shui, placement is not just about where something fits. It's about what that space is silently saying and whether the energy it holds can grow or stagnate. The jade plant, often overlooked as just a hardy succulent, becomes one of the most powerful energetic tools when placed with intention. And the most important place to begin is the southeast sector of your home or workspace. This area governs wealth and abundance, not just financially, but in how we hold on to blessings. In classical Bagua theory, the southeast represents long-term savings, nurtured goals, and self-grown fortune. Not lottery-style gains or overnight fame, but the kind of prosperity that arrives and stays. When you place a thriving jade plant here, a plant that visually and energetically mirrors stored abundance, you activate the roots of your financial destiny. It's not about inviting money to rush in, it's about signaling that your space is ready to keep it. Another powerful placement is near your front entryway. In Feng Shui, the front door is called the mouth of Qi, where all energy, good or disruptive, enters the home. Placing a jade plant on a console table just inside the entrance, particularly to the left when standing inside and facing the door, sends a message that abundance is welcome here. It becomes a silent doorkeeper, a symbol that this household is rooted in value and receptive to flow. It draws opportunity not through shouting, but by emanating a calm, magnetic stability. This is especially effective for families or individuals who feel like they're always working hard, but rarely feeling a sense of gain. The jade here doesn't chase, it attracts and it anchors. For those working from home or running businesses, the home office is another ideal placement zone. Here, the jade plant becomes more than decor. It becomes a partner in ambition. Unlike flashier plants that create bursts of creative energy, the jade plant offers depth. It supports career growth rooted in consistency, reputation, and quiet discipline. Whether placed behind your desk to symbolically support your back or on the wealth corner of your work surface, it helps concentrate financial energy around what you build, not just what you hope for. I've seen clients describe their workspace as more focused, more emotionally grounded after introducing a jade plant here. It doesn't solve all problems, but it creates a field of energetic reinforcement. In a world of deadlines and digital distraction, that matters more than most people think. Now, while the jade plant is energetically potent, its power can be diluted or worse, reversed, if placed in inappropriate zones. The bathroom is the most common misplacement I encounter in consultations. The logic is understandable. Bathrooms often have soft light, extra humidity, and unused corners. But symbolically, this space is where water energy dominates and cycles downward, draining, flushing, releasing. Placing your jade plant here may feel harmless, but in Feng Shui language, it's like telling your abundance to disappear. Financial blessings become harder to hold, and intentions get washed away before they can take root. Similarly, bedrooms are also unsuitable for this plant. The jade's qi is too yang. It carries momentum, a forward drive, a subtle buzz of productivity. It's beautiful for your wallet, but disruptive for your rest. The bedroom is where you surrender. The jade plant is designed to help you build. Let those energies stay in their own lanes. Another overlooked error is placing the jade plant directly on the floor. In Feng Shui, low placement equals low energy. A plant that's meant to support your rise should not be sitting beneath your feet. Place it on a ceramic, clay, or wooden stand at waist height if possible, so it can align with your energy field, not sink below it. Think of it as a quiet, energetic colleague. You wouldn't ask someone to lift you while they lie down. Raise your jade plant so it has the stature it deserves. When placed with this kind of care, the plant not only grows better but becomes a subtle reminder that your space values order, attention, and dignity. For those wanting to deepen the energy even further, potting details matter. A terracotta or clay pot enhances the earth element, grounding the wood nature of the jade plant and helping stabilize wealth. Earth supports wood in the 5-element cycle, and this harmony builds a container of financial safety and patience. Add a soft, warm light nearby, a small lamp or indirect sunlight from a clean window, and the jade will respond. You'll begin to notice fuller leaves, stronger trunks, and a subtle shift in how that corner of the room feels. It will hold qi differently. It will breathe, and your own energy, if you're sensitive enough to notice, will begin to slow down and focus. When these placements are chosen with attention, the jade plant becomes more than a house plant. It becomes a statement, a declaration that this home is no longer scattered, that the person who lives here is no longer chasing, but cultivating, that the space is ready to hold not just things, but intentions. And in Feng Shui, there is no greater wealth than that. How Warren Buffett's office used jade symbolism. In the financial world, few figures represent steadiness quite like Warren Buffett. While most people focus on his stock picks, annual letters, or legendary patience, there's a quieter side to his success story, visible not in his words, but in the arrangement of his space. During a 2008 media tour, when photos of his Omaha office began circulating online, sharp-eyed observers noted something that at first glance seemed insignificant. A jade-like succulent, small and humble, sitting on a shelf near the office window. No lavish decor surrounded it, no spotlight. It didn't compete for attention among the stacks of paper, investment reports, and the famously modest desk. And yet, in the world of Feng Shui and symbolic energy, that plant may have said more about Buffett's mindset than any chart could. While Buffett never commented publicly on the presence of that plant, many Feng Shui practitioners have seen it as a subtle declaration. The placement was deliberate, not in the center of the desk, but off to the side, near light, close to natural flow. It wasn't placed for others to admire. It was there for the space itself to hold energy, to mirror the values that shape Buffett's life: consistency, restraint, and the power of letting things grow without force. The jade plant, after all, is not about drama. It's about durability. It's not about fast wins. It's about quiet, layered gain. And if there were ever a person whose financial legacy mirrors that rhythm, it's Buffett. Buffett has long emphasized the value of compounding, how small, regular choices build into massive results over time. He doesn't chase hype. He doesn't fear missing out. And that mirrors the behavior of the jade plant perfectly. You don't rush it. You don't force it to bloom. You simply place it somewhere meaningful, water it with intention, give it light, and let time do its work. The wealth grows in silence, in routine, and subtle calibration. The presence of that jade-like succulent in Buffett's office then becomes less of a design detail and more of an energetic alignment. It's a living metaphor, and whether consciously or not, it broadcasted a powerful message. This is a space where energy doesn't scatter, it concentrates. Where fortune isn't pursued in panic, it is built in patience. This isn't just about symbolism, it's about identity. When you walk into a space, your office, your home, even your private nook, there are items that speak on your behalf. Some scream ambition, others whisper security. And a jade plant, especially one placed quietly near light, says this: I don't need to prove that I'm growing, I am. It holds a field of steady gain, of non-reactivity, of energy that doesn't peak and crash, but holds and stabilizes. And in a world where most people overcompensate with movement and noise, to choose a plant like this, to honor it, tend it, and let it do its quiet work, is to align with one of the most grounded financial philosophies you can practice. So the lesson from that Omaha office isn't botanical, it's behavioral. Whether Buffett chose that plant consciously or simply resonated with its frequency on a deeper level, the outcome was the same, a visual anchor that reflected his values. And in your own space, your jade plant can serve the same role, not as a prop, not as a trend, but as a reminder that you don't have to chase to grow, that consistency outlasts chaos, that the best spaces aren't just decorated, they're deliberate, and the best fortune isn't always loud, it's loyal. Mistakes to avoid. When working with a plant as energetically sensitive and symbolically loaded as the jade plant, mistakes aren't just horticultural, they're energetic. The first misstep that many well-meaning caretakers make is over-trimming. The jade plant does not need to be shaped like a bonsai or sculpted to look perfect on a shelf. This is not a plant that wants to be controlled. When you snip it too often, particularly for aesthetic uniformity, the message you're sending, consciously or not, is that you're uncomfortable with natural growth, that you're forcing results rather than allowing prosperity to unfold in its own rhythm. Trimming should be intentional and rare. Only dead leaves or branches so heavy they cause imbalance. Anything more disrupts the symbolism of self-earned stability. The second mistake, equally common but more subtle, is letting the plant dry out completely. While it's true the jade is drought tolerant, neglecting it altogether speaks volumes in Feng Shui. Soil that is bone dry reflects a forgotten intention, a financial goal set once and then left untended. And that's exactly how opportunity disappears, not in crisis, but in neglect. You're not just withholding water from the plant, you're withholding care from your own aspirations. A jade plant thrives on balance, not overwatering, not abandonment. Water it when the soil feels dry to the touch, but not parched. Respect the rhythm, and the plant will return the gesture with calm, stored vitality. The third mistake, and perhaps the one most often overlooked in busy households, is placement. specifically crowding it into a cluttered corner, behind stacks of unopened mail, beneath charging cords, or next to a tangle of forgotten receipts and loose change. The jade plant symbolizes prosperity, yes, but also dignity. When it's hidden in chaos, it doesn't just fade from view, it loses its function. In Feng Shui, abundance needs room to breathe. It's not about showcasing the plant, but about giving it space to radiate. You don't park a Rolls-Royce in a storage unit, and likewise, you don't tuck your financial anchor behind a pile of errands. A jade plant should live in a space of clarity and respect, elevated if possible, and surrounded by intentional emptiness, not visual noise. That space around the plant is not wasted, it's charged. It's the space where future growth arrives. So step back, look at how your jade is living right now. Are you truly treating it like a vessel for wealth energy? Or has it become another object gathering dust in a home full of forgotten intentions? Who benefits most from this plant? The jade plant does not bloom for the impatient. It was never meant to. Its gifts are reserved for those who understand that some of life's most important harvests take seasons, sometimes lifetimes, to mature. It doesn't appeal to the person constantly switching gears, trying every strategy, or running after every new trend with breathless urgency. Instead, this is a plant that responds to rhythm, to repetition, to the quiet discipline of someone who understands that growth isn't always visible, but is always unfolding. That's why it finds a natural home with new business owners, those who are laying down values, not just goals. Entrepreneurs who care as much about how they earn as they do about what they earn. For them, the jade plant becomes more than a symbol. It becomes a coworker of sorts, present each day as a visual reminder that slow, ethical building leads to something that lasts. And for those who have tasted loss, financial collapse, business failure, sudden instability, the jade plant offers another kind of medicine, not optimism, but renewal. It doesn't promise a quick fix or an easy climb back, but it does whisper, "You're not done, start again. But this time, stay." It's especially aligned with people who tend to give up too early, those who burst with enthusiasm but falter when momentum fades. In these cases, the jade plant acts as a mirror, showing them what consistent care looks like. What happens when you don't walk away just because the bloom hasn't come yet? There's a resilience to this plant that can gently retrain your nervous system, your sense of pacing, your financial mindset. And over time, as the leaves thicken and the branches stretch, it begins to reflect something more profound than growth. It reflects maturity. But beyond personal healing or business support, the jade plant holds meaning for another group entirely, those thinking about legacy. It doesn't shout or shimmer, but it carries the weight of inheritance. It's for people beginning to ask, what am I really building? What will last when the novelty fades? Whether you're a parent trying to instill generational stability or an individual ready to transition from accumulation to stewardship, the jade plant aligns with that energy, not just about collecting more, but about tending wisely to what you already have. It teaches that wealth isn't about constant pursuit. It's about care. It's about anchoring prosperity so deeply into your space, your behavior, and your values that it can weather not just seasons, but storms. So if your life has felt hurried, scattered, full of action, but low on integration, the jade plant might be what your energy is asking for. Not a breakthrough, not a miracle, just a quiet, loyal partner that reminds you that success isn't measured by what comes fast, but by what stays, grows, and eventually gives. How to amplify its power. The jade plant is not just a passive placeholder for symbolic wealth. It's an interactive conduit, a quiet collaborator. And like any intentional tool in Feng Shui, its power doesn't arise simply from its presence, but from the way you engage with it. When amplified thoughtfully, it becomes not just a symbol of prosperity, but a magnet for it, anchoring your space in long-term abundance that reflects your values, not just your desires. The first way to elevate the jade plant's energetic contribution is through elemental nourishment. While it is classically aligned with the wood element, jade also responds beautifully to the support of the metal element, which in the cycle of the 5 elements generates water, and in turn, strengthens wood. This is why placing your jade plant near a gold object, brass coin, or even a symbolic wealth token can increase its vibrational harmony. The object doesn't need to be flashy. A small Feng Shui coin tucked under its pot or a gold-toned frame nearby is enough to offer that elemental whisper of support. The gesture matters more than the size. It's a statement to your space. I understand how energy flows, and I support that flow with intention. Second, introduce warmth, not just emotionally but physically. The jade plant responds to light the way a person responds to clarity. It doesn't thrive under harsh exposure, but it does open under gentle encouragement. A soft lamp within 2 to 3 feet of the plant can act like sunrise in a dim room, awakening qi, supporting leaf expansion, and inviting slow upward movement. Ideally, choose a warm-toned light bulb, one that mimics the spectrum of natural morning light. This helps the plant receive energetic signals that mimic nature's cycle of emergence. More importantly, that warmth radiates into your space, subtly reinforcing the theme of cared-for growth. But perhaps the most powerful amplifier isn't physical at all. It's spoken. Words are frequency, and when used deliberately, they act like fertilizer for the energetic field around you. Every week, perhaps on a Sunday night as you're resetting your focus for the week ahead, take a moment to stand near your jade plant and speak an affirmation. Something simple, something sincere. Something like, I tend to what I wish to grow. You don't speak to the plant. You speak through it, as if it were a portal, a mirror, a gentle reminder that energy responds not just to attention, but to alignment. And in that moment, you are not asking the universe for anything. You are declaring that you already know the rules of growth, consistency, stewardship, and belief without rush. You can also deepen this ritual by incorporating scent, burning a stick of sandalwood nearby, or placing a drop of essential oil on the pot's rim. Earthy scents calm the nervous system and strengthen earth energy, which stabilizes both metal and wood. Alternatively, create a space around the jade plant that's clean, uncluttered, and emotionally congruent with what you're calling in. If you're asking the plant to help you grow a business, let the surrounding objects reflect that clarity. A well-organized desk, a journal with fresh pages, a pen that writes smoothly. If your intention is about emotional financial healing, you might place a stone near it. Citrine, pyrite, or green aventurine, each known in Feng Shui and crystal lore for their stabilizing wealth frequencies. The deeper truth is this: no amount of lighting coins or candles will substitute for energetic consistency. The jade plant is a partner, not a shortcut. It mirrors your rhythms, and the more you cultivate its environment with care, the more it stabilizes yours. Amplification, then, is not about adding noise. It's about refining signal, about creating an atmosphere in which both you and the plant can continue growing, not in flash, but in form. In Feng Shui, we don't chase wealth. We cultivate the conditions for it to take root. We don't wait for luck to arrive. We design our lives to hold it when it does. And no plant embodies that philosophy more humbly or more honestly than the jade plant. Its growth is slow, sometimes imperceptible, but always present. It doesn't call attention to itself. It simply holds space, holds rhythm, holds wealth. Not just the kind you see in numbers, but the kind you feel in the way your home steadies you, the way your mind quiets, the way your goals stop rushing and start aligning. Because in the language of energy, the jade plant whispers what most prosperity books forget to mention, that the fortune you build with care never leaves you. It becomes a part of your field, your presence, your path. It anchors you through drought. It blooms only when ready, and when it finally does, it doesn't vanish, it stays. And so I ask you now, as this episode draws to a close, not what you want to manifest next, but what you're truly ready to grow, not quickly, not loudly, but in a way that lasts. What part of your life needs that kind of loyalty? What area of your energy is asking not for more movement, but for better roots? Drop a comment below and tell me, where does your jade plant live? What have you learned from tending it? Or if you're just now considering bringing one into your space, what kind of energy are you hoping to align with? I read every single response, and I love hearing how each of you brings this wisdom into your real, living homes. Because these conversations matter, not just for aesthetics, but for legacy, for the way we build lives that hold meaning, not just momentum. And if this video gave you something to think about, if it slowed you down in the best way, or helped you reconnect with the rhythm of your own becoming, I invite you to share it with someone building their foundation right now. Someone who doesn't need another rush of inspiration, but a reminder of what they already know, that good things grow slowly and that their time will come. Subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We're growing plant by plant, message by message, toward 2,000 subscribers. And every single one of you helps us continue crafting content that's not just beautiful, but built to last, built with intention, built for homes that want more than decor, they want depth.